So in the last video we talked a lot about scope. We're now going to look at that in a bit further detail by paying more attention to this public command that we've just used without really looking at in great detail yet. So, as I mentioned right at the beginning, this public means that the evilness property of this class is available to any bit of code that's in this script. So let's see how that all fits together. So this time we'll create Gannon as a new baddie, not a boss, and we'll get rid of the destruct function for now as well. And you'll remember that we can display Gannon's evilness by doing that using the arrow. There we go. So there's his evilness. Now, if I don't want the evilness to be available to the rest of the script, I want to keep it private within the class, I can use protected instead of public. So if I now run that script, nothing happens. So the rest of the script doesn't have access to this variable. It's only accessible from within the class. And this can be very useful for security reasons if you don't want bits of your script accessing other bits and potentially messing things up. So how would I then affect this evilness? Well, I would do it using methods within this class. So let's see, for example, if I change the increase evilness function to return this evilness, then I can use the increase evilness function to not only increase the evilness by 1 but get the value of evilness. There we go. So now it's 11 because it was 10. We've increased it by 1. And in fact, in many languages, not so much PHP, but in many languages, it's common to create what are known as getters and setters for each of your variables. And that they just work like that. So we have a method called getEvilness, which returns whatever the evilness is. So if we have a look at that, getEvilness should return 10. There we go. And we could create another method called setEvilness, and this would take a value which the rest of the script would provide, and then we would set this evilness to be equal to that value, so the number provided by the script. So let's just see how that would work. So we'd say Gannon set evilness to say 25, and then on the next line we'd get the evilness, so that should return 25. So these are known as getters and setters as alternative ways of getting access to the variables in your classes. Now, what about subclasses, you might be wondering? Can a subclass access protected properties from the original class? Well, let's find out. Let's get rid of this line, and in fact we'll get rid of the destruct bit for now as well. So if we create a function, let's call it getBaddieEvilness, and we'll instruct the function to return this evilness. So now we need Gannon to be a boss to make this work, and we're going to use the function getBaddieEvilness. So if this function works, that means that the subclass can access the protected variable there, or the protected property, I should say. Okay, that works fine. Great. So there might be a situation where we would want only the original class to access a particular variable, and we can do that using the private keyword. So if I now run that, so now the getBaddieEvilness function doesn't work because that's part of the subclass, not part of the class itself. Just to make sure that everything's still working as it was, if Ganon was a baddie instead, and we used the getEvilness function, that works fine. And in fact, even if Ganon is a boss, we can still use the getEvilness function because that's a part of the baddie class, not the boss class. So that's two keywords that are worth being aware of: private and protected. So private properties and methods can only be used or referred to in the actual class they were in, and protected properties or methods can be accessed from the class or the subclass, but not outside of those two classes.